Good afternoon. The sequential evaluation process. We will go through the 5 steps, and today it's just the first step. Everyone goes through the sequential evaluation process. It is an organized method of getting from a person applying, where there's no knowledge of whether he's disabled or not, to a determination of whether or not the person is disabled. Well, okay, so this is step 1. It is a very quick step usually, but not always. It is the person working above SGA level? As you know, SGA stands for substantial gainful activity. So obviously, if someone's not working at all or engaging in activity that would otherwise be substantial gainful activity as defined by the SSA, and you can look up that playlist if you want to get a little more details, because sometimes it doesn't matter how much you're earning as to whether it's SGA. But for most people, if they are working part-time or full-time, the SGA question is going to be answered by the numbers. In 2024, this year, the SGA number for non-blind individuals is $1,550 per month. That would be gross, guys, before taxes, before deductions, before paying anything that you would pay out of there, be it for benefits through your employer or what have you. It is the gross amount. There are exceptions to what can separately be deducted out of there in the more rare instances. And that's a video for a different day, because that would be when someone is just over SGA somewhat and they have these acceptable deductions under the SSA law. It has nothing to do with taxes, that can bring them under SGA. So that's totally different area. You can go look under SGA to find that, I believe, and a few other places. But in any event, so first we're going to look at if the person is not working at all and there's no indication that they're doing something that would normally be considered work, but they're just volunteering their time and could be paid but aren't. The monetary amount, $1,550 in 2024, $1,470 in 2023, will decide if that person is SGA. If that person is not SGA, boom, they pass step 1, they get to go to step 2. You want to get through all the steps with an end result being disabled, okay? And the big important one is step 1. I'll give you an example. I have had a fellow who was not working at all, serious medical impairments, can't do a lot of sitting or standing at one time, and had multiple surgeries, spinal, and dealt with quite a bit of pain, particularly if he wasn't able to accommodate himself. After his last surgery, now we had a case going. After his last surgery, he got the opportunity to take a job in a field he was familiar with certain angles at that job that would really accommodate him, even if they weren't official accommodations. So it would really help his physical ability to perform it. He started working full-time. We were on initial still, and the SSA did find out about it, I think through employer reportings. I found out about it too, and noted to him that this is probably going to, cause a denial, because at the time they're making the decision, step 1 always has to be in play. In other words, if they find out and you're supposed to report you're working, or your employer will, so it almost doesn't matter. If you are working above SGA, and this gentleman it was full-time, you are not disabled. This is true even if you could later actually appeal that, because you think you might be stopping soon, and then you appeal it while you're, let's say, you have 60 days to appeal for reconsideration. You stop working because it's just too much. Your appeal can go forward. So even though they have to deny you, you can actually keep that case alive because then it was a failed work attempt and now it's looked at in a different manner. It's a past failed work attempt. And so that SGA work for that time period, if it suffices as a failed work attempt, which is a whole nother issue, check out the video, won't be the case killer. But at the moment, they're going to deny you. So that will be a denial at step 1 if you're over SGA. Full-time is generally always going to be SGA. Part-time, it's going to depend on how much you're earning. They also look to see in a very, not so much when you're a W-2er, but certainly if you know, maybe if you're a gigger, is your work activity, would it be SGA if you were paid the kind of value that work activity would be gaining you if you were working for someone else and doing it? This can come into play with self-employment, I think. But anyway, SGA, if you're working while you're applying, you have to pay attention to this. Step 1. It's really almost the easiest one to pass. But again, when you have to pay a rent or a mortgage, some people do head on back to work and then boom, their case is going to get denied. Even if they'd already moved into the medical workup office. So the initial application was accepted because they weren't working at that time. And then middle of the medical workup, now at a totally different office, not at the field office that you probably think your case is at, but it's not, is when it came to light. And so the case had to be yanked for a denial. Okay. So, but again, you can appeal that if you want to, and sometimes you buy yourself some time. Am I going to be working long enough at this rate that it will be able to, you know, it will continue, it'll be deemed a successful work attempt by the time the next decision is made, or will it be a failed work attempt and I'll be glad that I appealed? All those things. All right, that's SGA step 1 of the sequential evaluation process, and stay tuned for step 2. Bye-bye now. Good morning. Okay, so we're talking about the sequential evaluation process for adults when you have a Social Security disability or SSI claim. Now, you are either perhaps have just watched one of the individual segments on one of the 5 steps, and this will be an overview of what all 5 steps are, just so you know at what place you're in. Or you're just coming here for the first time and you are just going to learn right here what the 5 steps are without the details attached to them. So I will try to connect all the other ones to this. So if you need to pop to number 3 and find more details about it, you can, or 4 or 5 or 1 or 2. Okay, so this is just going to be the rundown of the 5 steps and their names and what they are. Super quick. Okay, so when you first file a claim, the first step that the SSA has to determine is, are you working SGA? If you are working SGA, and that's a term of art, there are playlists on this channel about SGA. If you are not disabled. They stop and your case is over. You lose. If you are not performing SGA, the work level of SGA, so this would include people who have stopped working altogether, of course, you get to go to step 2. Step 2 is, do you have a severe medically determinable impairment? One could think of that as a severe diagnosis, perhaps, although I'm sure it's not exactly that, but an MDI would have to be diagnosed, and it has to be diagnosed in the medically acceptable manner. And all of that is through your medical records. So that's where all the medical boom, boom, boom treatment is really important to get to that point. If you do not have a severe medically determinable impairment, even if you have medically determinable impairments, because who doesn't at least have small ones, if you do not have a severe one, just one, you will be denied. Stop, you're out the door, the case is over. If you do have at least one severe MDI, you get to go to step 3. Step 3 looks at your severe MDI and all your other MDIs, severe and non-severe, although it would be a severe one that would have to lend itself to a yes here. Does it meet or equal a listing? They're referring to the Blue Book listings. You can find them at ssa.gov. And if it meets the details within the description of that listing of that kind of impairment, you will, if yes, be found disabled at step 3. Game over. You're done in terms of you just won the hardest battle of proving that you are medically disabled. Then they would go on to anything non-medical, like, well, did you even have the insurance? Or if it's SSI, are you poor enough? That's at a different office. But the big hard battle that everyone fights sometimes for years on just ended for you if you meet or equal a listing at step 3. Step 4, this is, you go to step 4 if you're not found disabled at step 3. So that's a little switch, right? If you do not meet a listing, before they go to step 4, they're going to find out what your RFC is. What is your residual functional capacity to work? And that is a whole term of art, and the details are pretty complicated. You go on to step 4 with that RFC assessment in hand, and the question is, can that person, despite those limitations, given his RFC assessment, is there other work? I'm sorry, can he do his past relevant work? Past relevant work is a term of art also. It's got some tests that it has to meet to be considered past relevant work. So you might want to look up that playlist for that. If he can do his prior relevant work, any of those jobs that fall within that category, not disabled. Boom, end of story. Your case loses at step 4. If step 4 finds it, nah, can't do his past relevant work, that is a little too arduous in one way or another, then you get the privilege of going to step 5. Step 5 is there any other work in the national or regional economy that this person can do? Work that exists in substantial numbers. If there is other work you can do of sufficient numbers, certain occupations, you are not disabled. You lose at step 5. That is a very common place to lose, as is step 4. If you cannot do any other work, they can't provide, and that burden is on them at this point, any other jobs you can do in sufficient numbers, then yes, you are disabled and you win at step 5. Okay, more details on 1 through 5. See at the end. I will put up I guess I'll put up a button for number 1. From number 1, you can see buttons for number 2. From 2, you can see a button for number 3. So they will go in sequential. If at the end you click on the button that should be in the upper corner there. Yeah, I think that's the only way I can really do it, but I hope it helps. All right. And if you have any questions, just leave them in comments and we'll talk about it later. All right. Bye.